Today we're hanging out when we're talking about NOVOCAINE, the new 1 hour and 50-minute action thriller starring Jack Quaid, written by Lars Jackson, directed by Dan Burke and Robert Olson. I actually saw this movie 2 weeks ago, but I myself am actually making my own movie, and if you didn't know, indie filmmaking is really hard. So I'm just getting around to reviewing it now. So NOVOCAINE, let's discuss. When the girl of his dreams gets kidnapped, a man turns his inability to feel pain into an unexpected advantage as he fights a bunch of thugs to get her back. Jack plays a character named Nate Kane, and when the kids at school find out that he has this rare disorder that prevents him from actually feeling any pain, the nickname NOVOCAINE becomes a seamless nickname for the bullies at school to torment him with. I am very sorry to report that NOVOCAINE by Frank Ocean does not appear in this film's score. Missed opportunity. So we start by following Nate, and we see his day-to-day and how this disorder affects his daily life. You know, he has to wear a timer that goes off every 3 hours that reminds him to pee, because if he doesn't, then his bladder could explode. We see him sort of pureeing and making smoothies out of all of his food because he can't bite food for fear of damaging his tongue or mouth or something like that. So when he finally goes to lunch with the girl of his dreams, his coworker, she introduces him to pie for the first time. That's right. He takes a bite of pie and his taste buds explode, and so does his heart. He is in deep. So when the bank that they both work at is held up and she is taken hostage, Nate does the only logical thing that he can think to do, which is get in a police car and chase her down, fighting bad guys and getting into some really crazy, gnarly situations, which we'll talk about in a second. He will do anything to get back the girl of his dreams, the girl who's introduced him to a whole new world and shown him the possibilities of how great life can be. Now, this combination of him not being able to feel any pain and this wild circumstance creates some very gnarly action fight sequences. And there's a lot of unique injuries that both Nate experiences and inflicts. The entire thing is very comedic, and it is entertaining. It is simply entertaining. And look, I mean that as a huge compliment. Movies are meant to do many things, okay? Inspire, heal, etc., etc. But above all else, movies are meant to entertain. That doesn't mean that there can't also be some incredible, amazing message that your audience takes away from the film. But, and this is a bigger conversation, but when we start forgetting the point of movies, entertainment, and we start just preaching, we find ourselves in some of these recent flops that we found ourselves in. I digress. So anyway, these stunts. I'm not usually the squeamish type. There were a few moments where I had to literally look away because it was just, I knew where it was going and it was painful to watch. I enjoyed the plot. It was pretty straightforward action thriller with lots of, crime elements, solid performances, and there was a pretty decent little twist. I thought the disorder that Nate had, made for a pretty unique experience, and I thought that the comedy was overall quite accessible. That brings me to my next point. Nate, the character of Nate, was very accessible. He's not some big, hunky man. He's like kind of a little bit of a dork. He's got this crush on this chick at work who he's like too afraid to talk to. But this perfect confluence of events allows him to be the hero that he thinks Sherry needs. And a lot of the comedy comes out of that approach. And again, it makes for an entertaining film. I will say we did venture off into unrealistic many times, but again, it was kind of what we signed up for going into it. By the end, I was feeling a little bit fatigued by all these stunts and crazy injuries that Nate was experiencing and inflicting, but that was really my only big complaint about the film. The budget was $18 million, and I thought they made the film look pretty expensive. If you're watching a movie review channel, you probably are pretty clued into what's going on in the movie world and industry these days, and you'll know that a lot of films are spending so many millions and millions of dollars. So I'm always really excited when a film has a relatively low budget of $18 million and is executed well and does what it's set out to do and is also being received well. Like, unless you're making like a Dune, I don't really understand why you need $200 million to make a film. I'm looking at you, Joker 2. Anyway, I like the way that they wrapped up the film. All parties were held responsible in a way that felt satisfying but also still allowed for a nice little Hollywood ending. Jack Quaid is having quite the year with The Boys, Companion, and now this movie. I also obviously knew who his father was because his last name is Quaid, but I didn't know who his mother was, and I was like, I know it's someone famous, so I looked it up. It's Meg Ryan. Doesn't that make so much sense? Doesn't Jack Quaid look identical to Meg Ryan? Jack Quaid is always giving me like kind of vibes, and he definitely does that in NOVOCAINE and does it very well. I think this is a totally solid, enjoyable, entertaining action thriller with some crazy stunts and fights. So if you're into that kind of thing, I think you'll like it. Have you seen NOVOCAINE? What'd you think? Make sure to subscribe so we can hang out again soon, and happy movie watching.